Hi there, welcome to Joshing Around, a podcast in which I will show one friend of mine who knows nothing about Joshi Pro Wrestling one Joshi match, and we will talk about their thoughts and their feelings, their first impressions and their reactions. Then I will try and explain the history of the match to them and what makes it so special to me personally. My name is Tom Hunter and welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of Joshing Around. Today I got a special guest with me. It's actually the first male guest I have, oddly enough.
But I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I've gotten lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
This is accomplished author and writer Mike Meginnis, also called Mive on like Discord and stuff. Maybe you know him from there. Hi, Mike. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So like you said, I'm very accomplished. I write fiction. I've got 2 books out. The most recent one is called Drowning Practice. And if you were to want to read my work, I'd say read that and then maybe ignore the rest. And beyond that, I've been watching wrestling since 2018. I started on an internet stranger's advice with the G1 of that year, which was kind of a weird one. It had Balloon Okada, Juice Robinson's hand was hurt, and like every match he was in, there was this long discussion of like what percentage of recovery it was at. The Bullet Club was like ruining every match they were in, and this was apparently part of a story. I thought that was just like what they did. It was a weird place to start, and it took me a little while to figure out how to enjoy it. Honestly, my partner Tracy understood and appreciated it a lot more quickly than I did. Not long after that, we started trying to get into Joshi, and I'd say that that's kind of been my status ever since. We, like, really from a personal taste perspective, I think that Joshi is the style of wrestling that suits me best, especially in terms of the in-ring performance. But there are all these little annoying things about watching it that make it really hard to invest the effort when, you know, living in the US, I can just watch a couple of hours of perfectly cromulent wrestling in English with English commentary and stories that I can follow easily, broadcast at an hour that is convenient for me. But I really like Joshi. I don't quite find the time for it that I wish I could.
Yeah, I get that. That's like a common theme amongst the guests I had so far. It's like, yeah, it's tough to never be able to watch it live. And it's, of course, tough without, like, proper commentary. They're getting better about that lately in Stardom. They're getting Walker Stewart a lot to do commentary for the bigger shows. But, yeah, all the small house shows and like, the in-between Coricans and stuff, you won't get any English commentary for that. So, yeah, that's going to be tough to get into always, I guess. It's always a barrier.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like, I don't think of myself as it's not as if I love commentary, right? Like, I'll love to Walker Stewart, but I can't say that when I'm watching a New Japan show, like when I've been watching some of the recent stuff, I can't say that his presence is like massively beneficial for me. It's honestly just that it takes a lot of discipline to look at a screen when no one is speaking a language that you understand at length, when you could look at your phone or you could talk to your partner, things like that. Like, it's really hard to have the concentration that it takes to really appreciate what's going on. I will say I did not have that problem with this match that we watched for this conversation. I was locked in.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, no, I totally understand that too. I'm never really a big fan of commentary, but yeah, for the reasons you mentioned, that's you get distracted very easily. That's certainly the case. But I think it's interesting that you actually started watching a Japanese promotion first before you ever got. Did you get into like the WWE after that, or like AW wasn't a thing then, right? Did you say 2018?
No, yeah, that was basically right before they announced it. I I had awareness of WWE, you know, like growing up in the US, you did, right? Like I was a kid in the 80s and 90s when you know, I had friends who talked about Stone Cold all the time and they wore his t-shirts, and I heard a lot of quotes from The Rock. I didn't really understand who the characters were supposed to be there or what they were about. Like I had a couple of comic books that I got as a kid that featured, I think it was the Ultimate Warrior, and then honestly I don't remember his name, but the one that dresses up as a cop. I had a couple of comics about them for whatever reason, but we didn't have cable when I was growing up, and I wasn't really that into it anyway, so I didn't see WWE until, actually I think it was like that same year. It was 2018. What happened was I had a bunch of people that I followed on Twitter who were going nuts about whatever was going on in WWE at the time. I think the New Day was maybe having some fun segments, and I tried with Tracy to give it an honest chance, and I think we literally made it through like 4 minutes, and I was like, I hate this. I don't ever want to see this again. And after that, for years and years, I did not see any WWE. I'd seen like literally those 4 minutes until the segment where Cody was cucked by The Rock pretty aggressively, and I did watch that. I was like, you know what, I am gonna watch this weird bad vibe segment. So then I saw like 13 minutes of almost nothing, really uncomfortable broadcast television.
All right, yeah, that's right around the time where I like stopped with WWE completely. I was like still watching like some NXT, I think in 2018 and the beginning of 2019, but yeah, like main roster was super rough. Especially around like the time, but pretty much always.
Aesthetically, like to me, the thing that is so weird is like people talk about now that all this really nasty stuff has come out about Vince McMahon. Like they talk about how basically I don't see how anyone could really be that surprised by what was going on backstage, just based on how nasty the vibes were on what was on screen. Like it just aesthetically was so gross.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like just the production of it alone, like is a huge turnoff for me. In today's match, we actually have one participant that had like quite a long stint in WWE actually, but never quite really on screen. She just kind of wasted away her last couple of years in like the Performance Center, I guess, and NXT UK. Did you first? Maybe I want to ask you, since you started relatively like recently to watch wrestling in general. I mean, it's also like 7 years now since 2018. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, we've got the COVID time compression there, right? Where like all those years just sort of squished down into one big year.
That's true. I wanted to ask you, did you ever like go back and watch like older matches, or are you generally more interested in just like the current stuff?
Well, I do go back and watch older matches some. This was actually something I kind of wanted to ask you about, because this is sort of an interesting conundrum for me. Like there was a period where, and this was back before the New Japan relaunch, there was this big spreadsheet. Like here are all the decent matches, here are all the pretty good matches, here are all the really good matches from basically the entirety of what was on New Japan World before the relaunch, where a lot of the library kind of went away. And there were times where I would go through and I would pick a wrestler and I'd kind of work my way back through, and I'd be like, okay, so what was it like when Hanma was kind of more on the ball? What was an older Shibata match like? Like I would get into these little, I'd get pretty absorbed for a little while in watching that kind of thing, but it never lasted for long. And it wasn't because I wasn't interested. It was just like, it was really hard to choose one thing over another. Like it's so much easier to just kind of watch whatever is happening this week and be engaged with that. Even if like, obviously you're not going to have as many like really exciting, really high quality matches if you can't just go back and choose the best of the best. But like, it's hard to go back and watch the best. It's hard to like bring that level of attention to it. So like, I'm kind of curious for you, like, it seems like you're pretty good at going back and watching some of these older matches. Like, how are you choosing what to watch and staying engaged with it when you're kind of removed from it? Like, what is your relationship to that gap?
Honestly, it's just like, to me, especially like with the older Joshi stuff, if I watch like 90s and 80s stuff, it's like, it's just always it's kind of blowing me away. Like I've grown up watching wrestling pretty much. Like in the early 90s, I was like a big Bret Hart fan and was watching WWF at the time and stuff like that. But like the difference in quality to me is like so crazy at times, to how far ahead of the time, I guess, like the older Joshi matches were from like the 80s and the 90s. So that's always kind of like a fascinating thing to me. So when I go back and watch these matches, like that's a main reason for like a main motivational reason, I guess, for me to go back and check all that stuff out. It's also like, yeah, sometimes you just read about like these legendary matches, right? Especially like if you read just how crazy highly they were rated back then, also by like, I used to follow Dave Meltzer, of course. I used to be subscribed to the Observer for like close to 10 years, and you always read like about these crazy matches that Manami Toyota had and stuff like that back then. So you always hear about it, how great it actually was. And at some point I just took it up on me to like just start and go back and watch all that stuff that I'm always reading about. It's just curiosity, I guess, for me. So
yeah, I mean, you talk about how like in some ways they were really ahead of where a lot of the state of the art is now, and I definitely in watching this match, I felt that pretty strongly at times. I obviously the state of the art does not develop linearly. I don't want to put too much judgment on how things are different now from what they were at other points, especially because I imagine that in some cases the reason that things have changed in a way that is maybe a little bit less exciting to watch is like it probably wasn't a good idea to be doing some of this stuff. Like people were probably kind of hurting themselves pretty badly doing things that are real fun to watch. But there were things about the way that this was structured and just like some of the little touches where I did have this feeling like, man, I kind of want to make sure that people who are wrestling now are seeing some of this stuff, because I feel like they're missing some little tricks that could really help them out in a way that would not cost them too much.
That's absolutely true. I think that's something that could help a lot of people probably, going back, like just people starting out wrestling, especially people who were like, now I think there's a big chance like a lot of people who start wrestling now in the US at least came from like this background of like this WWE monopoly for like close to 20 years.
Right.
And this very like formulaic and patterned wrestling that the WWE prioritized in all these years probably had a pretty bad influence on like on like future generations of wrestlers, I guess, who are starting out now. And if they were to like check out more of this stuff, it would probably help a lot to just make wrestling better.
Yeah, I was struck in particular, and you mentioned this in another episode that I listened to. That I haven't watched quite enough to know like how pervasive of a theme this is in this period in what we watched, but I also have noticed it to a lesser extent in like the modern Stardom matches that I've watched. Like the wrestler, I feel like the number one reason that I get on better with Joshi generally than I do with other wrestling styles from a purely in-ring perspective is they are so good at looking like they want to win the match and like they're frustrated with each other and like they're struggling with each other, and they're just these little things that they do that communicate that they are, though they are of course actually working together and they're on the same page, they're really good at pretending not to be, and at pretending and like letting each other look bad, letting themselves look bad sometimes, letting moves go worse in a way that ultimately enhances the sort of fiction of it, because it's like, well, yeah, it wouldn't generally look really polished and clean if you were actually trying to kill this person. You would have some really weird sort of floppy maneuvers, and this match had a lot of that in a way that was, I thought it was really exciting. That was one of those things where it was like, I wish that were more in the American TV style. And I understand why it isn't. I understand that like time management is a big deal and this kind of thing can be at odds with that. But like it really does make it a lot of fun to watch.
No, I think absolutely. That's a big factor for me too. Like I just feel like they are better than any other wrestlers that I'm watching at just kind of weighing like the struggle and the emotions. I think you're totally spot on there. I don't know why exactly that is, what makes them better. I think that's just like maybe a cultural difference and like a general like a difference in gender as well. Like I think maybe the US wrestling is more like based on like being a big ass tough guy, never showing any emotion. And that's like the key difference maybe, that they are way more open about like just letting you in on the struggle they are having during the match.
Yeah, there's less of it's like if I were to be like really reductive and put on my Miss Andre hat for a second, like I would say that I feel like male wrestlers have a little bit of brain poisoning in terms of I need to look big and tough even when I'm getting thrown around. I need to look like a cool guy. And Joshi wrestlers it feels like they don't have so much of that need. As a result, they end up looking much cooler because there's a lot of confidence in being willing to flop around and land weird and struggle and stumble. And I feel like that confidence really enhances the sense of toughness and again of the competitors being at odds in a way that makes it really funny to me. Like the big knock on Joshi wrestling is a bunch of people say they just can't believe it. And it's like, I find it so much more credible in general than I do even most of my favorite male wrestlers, precisely because of that sense of struggle and that sense of like being willing to get knocked down.
I'm totally the same there as you. Totally agree. Maybe should we just get into the match then? Because I think that's a key part of this match specifically that we are covering today. I haven't even mentioned it yet. I think the entire episode so far. So.
Well, I wasn't sure if we wanted to be coy.
Yeah, I was kind of being that. Yeah, that's true. Maybe on purpose a bit. So I wanted to get this match on my schedule relatively quickly because I don't know if you heard about it or if you like were aware of it in any way, but like Meiko Satomura recently retired on April 29.
No, I didn't know about this.
Right, yeah. She had her last match. She had a little bit of a retirement run like the last 6 months until like just 3 weeks ago, 4 now, I guess, when she had her last match and retirement show, which was a tremendous show too, with a great final tag team match she had. So this is Meiko Satomura against Akira Hokuto from Gaia Limit Break in April 29, 2001. Wait, I'm just realizing now that this is basically on her retirement date 24 years ago. Yeah, that's crazy. Maybe that's on purpose, I don't know. Because this is like her big breakthrough match. Many consider it like the greatest match of her career, maybe. And one of the greatest matches, like, in wrestling in general, I reckon. It's her versus Akira Hokuto. Mm-hmm. Did you know anything about those two before watching?
No, I didn't know a thing. I was expecting something along the lines of what I saw, because I'm like, well, it's episode 6 of your podcast. You're going to choose something that is spectacular. But I was locked in from the second that Hokuto came out. Her entrance, I did Google her just to make sure that I knew which person was which. And so other than that, I didn't do any research because I didn't want to step on your format. But I did learn that she is apparently billed at 5'6", and I was like, that's impossible. This woman is like 8 feet tall, I'm sure, because she just had such energy when she came out. I was immediately bought in on the character. I was like, I don't totally understand this kind of cool, dangerous pirate demon look you've got going on, but I love it anyway. She tossed her practice sword into the audience in what looked like a pretty haphazard way, and I was like, that's awesome. it's great to risk injuring the audience at the beginning of a match.
I always think that part is kind of insane. I don't know what that sword is made of, or like she just throws it into the crowd like she wants to kill someone. I figure nobody got hurt, but like that's gotta be she's insane for that.
I wanted to ask you if that was part of her standard entrance. Like, did they know that was a possibility, or did that just happen?
She carries a sword with her on her entrance quite often. Yeah, she never throws it into the crowd though. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I think this was like this was a special match for her. Maybe she just wanted to like make it a special thing from the start, like from the get-go. She wanted to transport her demeanor, I guess, like that she's like ultra serious about this one. This is my theory why she just did it like that. Normally she has like this huge entrance spiel, I guess, with a big, she used to, in the early 90s, she used to have like these big kimonos and the crazy masks she would wear on her entrances, and then always with the sword. Yeah, in her later days, like this, in these gayer days, she transformed it more, like she didn't have the masks anymore, but this like cool Baroque pirate outfit, I guess, I don't know. But she always like made it a big deal, like her presentation and aura on the entrance alone was always like her big thing. And this is like kind of like a different entrance for her, because she's like so all business, no show for this one, that she just tosses away the sword and wants to get at it, I guess.
Yeah, well, it really established a sense of authority. Like, I was completely bought in on the idea that this person was in charge of the ring, and whoever came out next was really going to have a hell of a time overcoming her. And the contrast was effective in that regard too, because Satomura, I didn't really know anything about her either, but she comes out in, you know, what seems like a much more sort of functional gear. Her hair is just kind of like, yep, this is reasonable hair for an athlete to have. And I you know, we had about 6 pixels to work with on the video that you sent me. They were all beautiful pixels, but it was one of those things where it was like, I think she's significantly younger. I'm not totally sure, but the dynamics of the match felt like they bore that out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is like the key thing about the match is like Satomura was like this young up and coming, like she wasn't quite a rookie anymore. I think she made her the beginning of her career was actually 95, so 6 years earlier. She's been at it for 6 years already, but she's still been like more of things moved a lot more slowly, I guess, back then in Joshi. So 6 years in, you were still considered like a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like her breakout moment. Like Akira Hokuto was like a legend at this point. She had pretty much done everything you can do in the world of Joshi. This was generally like, this was when the Joshi scene in general was kind of like slowing down, or like it's already at the end of the come down, I think. It started slowing down around like mid to late 90s. So like, I don't know how much you know about like the big Joshi promotions from back then. The big one was like All Japan Women.
Yeah, I don't know a lot. I'm always really, whenever I hear what the numbers used to be on professional wrestling versus what they are now, it's honestly baffling. I don't even understand the world where those numbers were possible.
Right, yeah, that's the big thing. All Japan was pretty much done at this point, and Akira Hokuto had done everything someone could do in All Japan. I guess she has won everything, and she was like this giant legend. She then had a stint in America too, for a little bit in WCW. Then she joined Geia. Geia was this promotion that Chigusa Nagayo founded. Nagayo was also like, she was an even bigger like star and legend in Japan. She was one half of the Crush Girls. Have you ever heard of the Crush Girls?
I think I heard of them in the 3 seconds I spent reading about her before I stopped. So
all right.
You've said what I know about them.
Yeah, they were like this huge tag team in the 80s that also sold like records and stuff. Like they were legit like top stars, like maybe Hulkamania like stars in Japan at the time for wrestling. So Nagayo, she officially retired like in at the end of the 80s, let's say. She 89 is, I think. She retired, and then the heyday of All Japan Women happened. She kind of returned there, like in 94, I guess. No, 93. She returned to All Japan for a couple of matches, and that like convinced her to like get back into it. And so she founded her own company, and this was like Gaia Wrestling, where this match took place in. So Hokuto then, like a year after Nagayo founded this company, Hokuto decided to join it, and she was immediately like, of course, like the biggest star there. And Hokuto's role was basically, Hokuto's role in Gaia was basically to be like this huge mountain for the rookies and young women there to climb and fail over and over to overcome until this match, I guess.
So this is the first time she lost in the promotion.
Is it?
No, I'm asking. From what you said, it sounded like
yeah, it sounded very confident. It's very possible. I don't have this fact ready. Well, if she lost before, it was a very rare thing for sure.
Yeah. Well, and this is definitely the kind of loss that feels like a first loss, because there's the dynamic of this, if you don't mind me summarizing it, is these two are just wrecking each other for half an hour. They keep kicking out in situations where you wouldn't think they possibly could, and then finally, and throughout they've been doing this thing where Satomura will kick Hokuto will slap Satomura in the face, and they'll both fall down. They have this this last sequence where Hokuto scores what looks like it ought to be the move that finishes the match, and it does, but it's because she doesn't get up from it. They both get counted out. They get the 10 count to get to their feet if they would like to continue competing, and Satomura does successfully make it to her feet, and Hokuto looks like she's going to make it to her feet. She gets up first, actually, I think, but she ends up collapsing on the ropes, and so she loses. And it's this, it doesn't feel like Satomura has overcome her exactly. It doesn't feel like she's surpassed her exactly. It feels like they both survived it, and she survived a little bit more.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. She survived Hokuto. But she was like one of the rare ones, like of this younger class of women to do that, to survive her. Having a quick glance like at her match history, she did lose a bunch of matches in Gaia before, like tag matches and stuff. So that's not quite the case, but it was still like a really special thing for Meiko to win this match here.
Yeah.
And I think it made Meiko's career, essentially. Like Hokuto, I think it was very like sentient, I guess. Hokuto was very sentient of like trying to make Satomura into the next legend, because like Hokuto retired just a year after this match, and she chose Satomura as like her tag partner for her last match ever. So this basically shows to me that this was her plan, basically to make Satomura into her successor again.
Yeah.
Successor. Right. And then Meiko became that too. I think, and greatly helped by this match probably. Meiko was like the next legend Joshi. Unfortunately to her, it's like quite like a tragic legend run, I'd say, because this was like in the absolute death days of Joshi. Like the following 20 years was like, it wasn't a great time for Joshi as a whole. Like a lot of the great Joshi companies collapsed entirely, and a lot of those that were newly founded didn't really have a lot of success. Gaia folded too after a while. Like you can already see this match, according to Cage Match, it had 4,000 in attendance, and that's probably also quite exaggerated of a number. And like just like 8 years earlier, these Joshi shows would do like easily 15,000, 16,000.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about when I say that the numbers are unthinkable to me in our current context, right? That you'd be doing what would now be considered like an extremely successful WWE show for TV for just a Joshi show in Japan.
Right, yeah.
Would it be tedious for me to ask you? I don't know if this is something that like you'd want to review, but I'm curious, like if you would be able to summarize, like what is the thing that caused the downturn? Like why was it so high and then so low?
Oh, that's a tough question. I never really gotten a really satisfying answer myself for that, I guess, because it's like the big companies. I think it was a lot of mismanagement, is my guess, but it's more like a guess than 100% knowledge thing for me. I'm not a great like wrestling historian either. I'm just interested in the matches basically. This whole history thing between all the promotions. I always try to read into that more. I read into a bit more about Gaia too for this episode, but it never quite sticks with me. I guess it's like I'm not great at those things at memorizing these historical facts. But
me either, which is why I'm asking you.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Sorry, I can't give you a real answer to that. I suspect because like when All Japan Women folded, which was like the top company for Joshi, at the end of their days, they still had enough people in attendance that companies today could easily live with that. They still drew the same as like AW does nowadays,
right?
With like 3,000 to 5,000 people for most shows,
right?
But that wasn't enough for them back then to stay alive for some reason, and I can only think that this was like heavily mismanaged.
I mean, the economics would be totally different, right? Because, I say that, like, I guess I don't know for sure that they don't. My understanding is that the current era is really characterized structurally by the crazy amount of TV money that allows promotions to put on what still feel like big time shows with pretty small attendance, right? That's what carries AEW through some rough periods. And I guess I don't know for sure whether that's not the case here. But my sense has been that it used to be a more up and down business because they didn't have the insulation of the television money.
Right. And that's like, that's mainly what's going on in the US. Japanese promotions today also don't have that security.
Right.
Which is also why like a lot of promotions in Japan aren't doing that well today. And a lot of the American promotions are signing away talent from Japan because like it's just a rough financial period over there.
Right.
And in the US, they basically have like dummy money. They can't even they can't lose at this point. They have more money than they can spend basically. And like these promotions today, like there's a lot of like no Joshi promotion is as big today as All Japan was when they folded. I'd say so. But they still alive. I think like the whole contract system basically works a lot differently nowadays. I think a lot of like for the smaller Joshi companies, a lot of talent is like just doing this part-time and have like jobs still at the same time. And the bigger companies probably don't pay their contracted talent as much as like the women were earning in the 90s and 80s when Joshi was really big.
Yeah, at a certain point, the mystery becomes how anyone is convincing anyone else to wrestle currently outside of the places with the TV money. The economics of it are often very mysterious to me.
Right, yeah. Same. One thing that's also always like kind of escaped me or my understanding of the whole thing is why the popularity like decreased so much.
Yeah, it makes sense here. Like I more or less understand in the US why it kind of collapsed the way that it did. Like I think it just didn't keep up with cultural change in the way that it needed to keep people interested. But I have no idea whether that would be an applicable dynamic anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, and especially like for All Japan, I guess like the next generation just wasn't popular enough amongst the fans. Wasn't as popular like Toyota was and Hokuto were. And earlier than that, like Nagayo and Lioness Asuka and all these like huge stars. I guess the next generation of stars just doesn't come up in the mid to late 90s then. Yeah.
Yeah, to go back to the point you were discussing earlier, though, the way that Hokuto was really focused on making Satomura as big as she could through this match and through the end of her career. This is one of my favorite things about watching wrestling is the sort of life cycle. I don't get that excited about retirements, to be honest. I feel like they sometimes maybe take up a little more oxygen than I want them to, but the way that a late career wrestler, if they are comfortable with themselves and they're confident in their place in history, can start to sort of show off by trying to make as many other stars as big as they can in that waning period. I really love watching them compete to do that for other people. Like, for me, watching this match was partly about, like, there's a lot of trust, right? It struck me as an interesting example of trust to throw a practice sword into the audience and trust them to handle it, to just like not get hurt or not be mad if they were hurt. And then there's the trust that the wrestlers are showing each other in terms of, like, not only will I let you do this really rough looking, and I mean the moves in this match look terrifying. Not only do I trust you to do that to me, but I trust you to survive that and for me to be able to put you through this and then to come out looking credibly like the person who beat me, right? There's a lot of confidence in Hokuto in giving Satomura that achievement and making it look the way that she does, really like fighting with every ounce for it. It's a really beautiful display of a very strange kind of generosity that, like, you need to watch wrestling for a little while to really understand how generous it is to kick someone's ass this way.
Right, yeah, that's a great way to put it. Should we just go into the match a little more then?
Yeah.
Discuss like some of these horrifying looking spots, because I thought the match itself told like a very clear but like a very well structured, let's say, story that was like extremely effective, I thought. Because like in the first half of the match, let's say, or like first like 2/3 maybe, it was pretty clear that Hokuto was like the better wrestler of the two, and she constantly like out wrestled Satomura, and on every single like attempt Satomura made, like Hokuto was smarter, was better, was faster.
Yeah. To
out wrestle her and counter her into like these terrifying like armbars and wrist locks and whatever. Like she kind of destroys Satomura's arm with this like armbar at the start, and then later takes her leg apart too. So Satomura is like, the way I compare it in my head, like this whole story of the match is like this older lion that's like that has like his pride, and is like this huge king, and like a younger lion coming in to like challenge him. And by the end of the match, the older lion just looks like a wounded animal, especially after like the whole match turns for me when Hokuto does the senton to the outside.
Yes, I had the same exact spot in my notes. I was thinking of it just now.
Right, yeah. And everything shifts from then. Then after that, Hokuto looks like just this wounded animal, and Satomura is there to like just prey on her, and she takes over.
That moment where Hokuto has done she's done that, she's on the outside, she's recovering, the other, the ringside people are checking her out, making sure that she's okay to continue, and eventually she's struggling back in. Meanwhile, Satomura has gotten into the ring already. She is, she was the one that was being attacked by that move, but she has clearly come out of it better, and she's standing in the center of the ring and just breaking down and screaming while she waits for Hokuto to rejoin her. That was so intense. It was so wild, and it was so interesting to see I mean, that sort of foreshadows the end, right? Where, like, in theory, Hokuto has taken the initiative. She's done this big, devastating move that should be, in a way, decisive, and it is, but it's not helping her.
Right, yeah. Like, I think Satomura straight up dodged the senton.
Yeah.
So she wasn't even hit. And Hokuto like crashed and burned on the outside on the mats and was like, yeah, it wasn't the same after that.
Yeah, she like lands right on her back. Like, I think her legs sort of clip Satomura, but like it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Yeah, it was highly dramatic too, with like Hokuto's team was out there, or Hokuto's camp, I don't know. And they were selling this really excellently as well, I thought. There's one spot later when Satomura has Hokuto in a submission, and Hokuto's people can't even contain themselves. They like start almost running into the ring.
Yeah, somebody had to hold one of them back. That was
they
was
had
really
to be held back. It was crazy. Yeah, they sold it like perfectly. I thought the whole drama of the match.
Yeah, that was a fun example of a different sort of approach to a heel dynamic too, right? Where it's not that your person outside the ring is coming in to cheat for you necessarily, though I guess if they'd made it in, that's what would have happened. But it was like, actually, the point of this person ringside is to sell the desperation of that and the sense of outrage that it's going the way that it is.
Right, yeah, exactly. And yeah, like you mentioned, the finish itself is like, it's just like Meiko is clearly like has kind of overcome Hokuto. Or Hokuto like maybe died on her own hubris doing this move to the outside. It wasn't really necessary and she missed, and from then it was kind of over for her. And yeah, she just throws like this last desperation Northern Lights bomb. That is usually like her main finishing move, is like that last one where she kind of has them vertically and drops them right on their neck.
Yeah, God, that move is scary.
It's terrifying, yeah. It's crazy. And she finishes most matches with it. So, but in this case, she can't even make the cover and in the end, like, collapses, as you said, on the ropes, because actually, like, she's the more damaged wrestler, I guess, at the end of it. Which works greatly, I think, for, like, just the overarching story of the match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the drama of the fact that, I could be misremembering. I think she actually is like, she's vertical first, sort of. But then the way that she leans against the ropes and ultimately she folds backward on the middle rope in a way that visually looks crazy. It looks like a monster movie or something, where she ends up like basically folding in half backwards, hanging on. She's trying desperately to stand up, and like eventually she probably would have, but she not in time for that count. It's really beautifully executed.
Right, yeah, I thought so too. She's like, the way she collapses back down and like just hangs in the ropes there. It's crazy good. The thing that also stood out to me is like this counter wrestling, because they like constantly had these like desperation counters. That was a thing that ultimately led to the finish. But like throughout the entire match, Satomura also did her like she constantly did these overhead kicks. Nowadays she's retired, but she used to do this mostly like at the end of the match to finish her opponents in the later stages, from what I saw. But in this match, she was like just constantly doing this, as just like trying to surprise Hokuto, I guess, with like these payday kicks or whatever you want to call them. But she never quite could get it done and out wrestle her in these beginning parts of the match. I also thought like these kicks they gave each other to the head sometimes, and Hokuto kicks Meiko one time in the head, and it just looks so brutal. I think she got her for real on that one for sure.
I don't understand how they aren't with those kicks. Every now and then, like I like to remember that I'm an extremely poor judge as compared to the wrestlers of what is safe and what is a good idea and what is a bad idea. But with the kicks, it's like, man, I don't know. I just don't know how you could do it. I don't know how you could do it safely.
No. I don't actually know if there's really a way. I think you just have to tough it out if you're on the receiving end. But you're gonna feel that on the next day for sure.
Yeah. Another thing that was, in terms of that like desperation, that counter wrestling, this was one of the little dynamics that I really would like to, again, I understand why this isn't sort of the dominant mode, but the way that they sort of structure the portions of the match where they are trying to get up in the corner for, you know, some sort of top rope maneuver, it was really interesting to me, because normally when you get up there, you sort of begin this like really formal dance, and it's, I mean, I assume it's like this for safety reasons, right? That like the question becomes, which of these guys is going to lift up and flip the other, and like sometimes somebody gets knocked down and then they reposition, and like it's this whole series of maneuvers to set up whatever is ultimately going to be the big spot. And in this case, the second one of them, there's like 6 in a row or something where one of them will get up there and the other one will just yank her down in like this nasty way that could have totally like led to somebody getting spiked on their head. And they keep doing it over and over again. And the logic of it, this is like very wrestling logic. Like clearly in the rules of this match, as they understand them, getting up on the top rope is extremely advantageous. It's extremely dangerous. And you really want to prevent your opponent from getting that high ground, because they're going to use it to devastating effect, which isn't even like actually quite what happens in the match ultimately. Like if you look at the results of top rope maneuvers in this match, they're not good. It doesn't actually work out for the person who wins, but like they're behaving as if they really don't want that person to do the maneuver from up there. And that's so different from how it tends to be. And again, I understand there are very good reasons that it isn't usually like this, because it is a little scary to watch, but like, man, it was good. I could use a little bit more of this.
Yeah, that's very true. This is definitely a spot, or like a segment of the match that stood out to me as well. Like the way they just yanked each other down, and it was quite like it's like you say, it's a kind of a bit silly that they constantly just try to get back up there again for no real reason, because like the maneuvers itself, it's just not worth it, I guess.
Right.
Whatever they were planning to do at all, but they insist on going back up there over and over again. It works for the whole story of the match and like the struggle they're in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
also,
like the wrestlers are invested in the fiction that it makes sense to go to the top ropes. Like this is one of those things that I wish commentators would honestly relax a little bit about, because they will tend to like emphasize, man, it's risky to get up there. And then if the person takes on and says, they took too long, and then, you know, it backfires in some way, and they're like, man, I wonder why they even did that. And the whole time, I just want to tell them, like, nothing they're doing makes sense. Like, this is one of many maneuvers that doesn't make any sense. You need to buy into the fiction a little bit more. Like, in this match, I don't think that anything anybody does from the top rope is actually probably a good idea. But in the fiction of the match, it could have been a huge help for them. Like there's a reason in kayfabe that they're doing it, and I don't really think there's any harm in investing in that. I think it's better than the alternative.
Right, yeah, you're right about that. That's absolutely a thing. I think this is something that a lot of critics could like utilize a bit more. I guess too, when you read like any reviews of matches and trying too hard to force like a realism into wrestling that just isn't there. Right. I think besides like just the other thing that stood out to me in the match was just like the selling. I thought was very good. Like as you said earlier, like the struggle is very real and like very like it's not played as like a cooperative dance or something. It's like it looks really like the struggle is real for either person. In a way that they really just try to win the match at all costs. And I think like the way Satomura uses or stops using rather her arm after Akira put like 3 of those arm bars on her in a row, I think she sold like the pain and the damage that was caused by these arm bars extremely well throughout the rest of the match by just not using the arm at all for like a couple of minutes, and then when she has to, I guess, yeah, it's just like a real last resort type of thing for her, because essentially her arm was like ravaged by Hokuto. Yeah, they sold that point throughout the entire match, I thought.
It's one of the funny things about like watching wrestling over the years, right? Like your relationship to it changes a little bit, and the selling conversation has always been kind of funny to me, because it's, I think, seen by a lot of people as like, as you mature, you begin to appreciate selling more. It becomes more and more important to you as a viewer, and you know what it does. I think that's basically true and right, and I apologize for kind of teasing people for it. I've been enjoying selling more than ever this year, and I assume next year I will continue to enjoy it even more.
Right. No, I'm with you there. That's definitely a thing. Were there any like other things that stood out to you? Any spots or any like takeaways from it in general?
Yeah, one of the little things that I talked about earlier this is another one of those things I'd be kind of interested to see a little bit more. I mean, I think this is more of a thing in Japan generally, and among wrestlers who have spent a little more time there. I really liked the dramatic contrast of one of us will be slapping the other one in the face, and one of us will be kicking the other. It's another one of those things that doesn't really make a lot of sense if you think about it. Like, no actual fight between two human beings would feature the slapping one and the kicking one, especially in like these really mannered sort of exchanges where it's like, okay, now I'm going to kick you, now you're going to slap me. But there were like a million little things that they did that really communicated who the characters were, what their experience of the match was, how they were relating to each other. And that little touch of like, I'm the slapping one and I'm the kicking one actually does a tremendous amount to invest the match with a really persistent sense of drama and a clear sense of who the characters are. I mean, among other things, it means that Hokuto is standing up more, because she's just slapping Satomura in the face. And meanwhile, Satomura is constantly going low for those kicks, or like you said, doing the sort of flipping kicks that require actually falling down. And so it was a little thing that really kind of told you who the people involved were in a way that I think you sort of see throughout the match that I really appreciated.
Right, that's true. I think that's also that's another part where the selling comes into play a bit as well, because Satomura just doesn't possess the ability anymore after like those early exchanges to really go hard on those slaps. And maybe she has to use her legs because her arm is damaged too much from what Hokuto did to her first.
The main other thing that I felt watching this that I listened to the episode that you had with Seth, where you talked about Hokuto against Shinobu Kandori. And Seth said something along the lines of, if I had seen this at a formative moment, it would have changed me. And I had a similar feeling while I was watching this. Somewhere in my notes, it says something along the lines of, man, if it were always like this, wrestling would be too good. Like, it is, I think there are reasons that some of this approach has maybe become a little bit less common. People don't always go this hard. But like, man, if I had seen this at the right age, this would be like what I thought wrestling should be, and possibly what I thought life should be. Like, it is really good. I do, people should watch it.
I'm glad to hear that. Glad that you enjoyed it that much. No, but I totally agree with that. It's of course, these are like the special matches that I am picking out specifically for my guests, right? This is not like a common occurrence in these promotions either, that like every match looks like that. And it's also like you said, like just I guess the necessity is there for especially like this formulaic American TV wrestling to exist, because it's just not possible to go this hard for like, I don't know, 7 hours a week, every week of the year. While touring through the entire country, And I understand why TV wrestling became more formulaic. I think maybe it's gone a bit too far in that direction, especially in like companies like the WWE. I think AEW is being a bit better about that with like a bit more different flavors, I guess.
Yeah.
Between like, having a party match there and a fun tag team match there. That's more like about technical wrestling. That's the thing that AEW still manages to do. But obviously not every match can be like this epic classic that will be remembered in 20 years from now. And yeah, like also another thing you just said was, that's very interesting to me. When you said it's almost like too good. That is a thing I'm currently like struggling with a lot. Because like there was this match recently, like it ended up being a retirement match too. That was like so good that I don't know if I can like deal with wrestling right now really a lot, because like it's just I have like this nagging thought in my mind that it's never gonna be this good again.
Yeah.
And maybe I wish like if it wasn't that good, I wouldn't have this feeling and I would just be able to continue enjoying wrestling like I always did. But it's a bit tough right now. Like tomorrow is like the Double or Nothing show, right, for AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really interested in watching it at all, honestly. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's not been really like, I've not really been invested the same since I've had like this experience of watching like the one of my favorite matches of all time. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's been interesting, interacting casually as we do from day to day, seeing your experience of that leading up to it and when it happened, and your relationship to that and to wrestling generally in sort of the aftermath, right? Like to me, it really dramatizes like the sort of very different uses for wrestling that people have in their lives. Like for me, there's a reason that I'm not watching the best wrestling that I could be, right? Like if I were truly devoted, if I were like, I want to see the best of the best, like I said, I would find a way to deal with the stupid Stardom website. And I'd watch a lot more of that, and I would have seen all of the Surreyism matches, and I would have, I was really into Seedling for a while, and I would have watched way more of that. But for me, wrestling is like, I'm rarely sober when I watch it. It is something that I'm doing, to relax after, a long day at work, after a bunch of writing and reading, like after doing, like tiring adult stuff, right? And so for me, right, the fact that American TV wrestling, AEW included, is like not the best that it could be is honestly conducive to my enjoyment. Like I'm glad that it's not always this good, because I don't have the emotional resources to watch things this good every week, right? Like I need that to be like, I think the pay-per-view tomorrow will be good. I'm looking forward to several of the matches. I think several will probably be great. But like when I get done with one of those shows and it really does hit and it really lands for me, there's a part of me that's like, okay, and now I need the next episode to be kind of basic, just so I can reset a little bit in terms of like my nervous system, my relationship to myself and the human body. Like I don't want it to be the best that it could be. And so that's why like AEW really is kind of my favorite promotion, because like it meets me where I am. Sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's pretty bad. And like for me, that's kind of, that's the use that I have for wrestling, is like for that level of engagement and entertainment. But like if you go in on the really good stuff, that can change your relationship to it, right? And if that's important to you, that you're seeing like the highest level of drama and performance and excitement, or like you really like just find that is making the rest of it seem pretty weak, that makes sense. And I can see how it would be exhausting emotionally to go through that.
Right, exactly. I think you got the way better and healthier approach to wrestling there compared to myself, I guess. Yeah, I don't even know how I got into it like this deeply that I got invested like emotionally in this hobby so much. I guess it's probably pandemic related. Like a lot of stuff is nowadays that are like emotionally deeply emotionally, I don't know what you say, tough, I guess.
Yeah.
Tough on your emotions.
No, well, I mean, I think that's so true. Like, we have these years. I don't know if it's so much this way where you live, but like in the US, we just sort of pretend it didn't happen. And so we have these, like, depending on how you lived your life, 18 months, 2 years, 12 months, 6, whatever, where like people were going through some of the hardest things that they've ever experienced, and they didn't know what was going to happen next, and they were terrified. And then rather than deal with that experience, they've mostly like forgotten it happened, or it's been like displaced onto these other things that they got really excited about and really focused on during that time. And like, I feel like we're still recovering. Like, I think the rest of our lives, in some ways, we're going to be recovering from that experience and like coping with it, in part because we refuse to cope with it together. Like, we're all coping with it separately.
Nah, that's true. That's true, for sure. I mean, over here, I think it's similar. I think people are trying to do that. I personally probably don't, but I think the recovering bit, I think people are still feeling it, like just going through it financially now. For example, is a big thing with like all the inflation and stuff. That's of course something that happens over here too. And I think this is a big, like, one of the biggest like consequences of it that gets a bit downplayed, like how much, or like people seem to have forgotten over here too why we are in this situation exactly, and blaming the wrong things for it, because like no one is really at fault. But I think, when you see who or what people are blaming for the situation we're in right now, you can see that they've kind of forgotten what happened like just 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
A huge part of what just happened in this U.S. election, I am convinced, is people genuinely thought Joe Biden was president for most of COVID. Like, they kind of think it all happened under him and Trump left a little before. I genuinely think, I don't know how many people consciously believe that, but if you look at their behavior, it really feels like that's what deep down, that's what they thought. And it's just a lot of displacement. It's a lot of confusion. Right.
And it's the exact same thing over here, I think. And everywhere else in the world, for that matter. I believe that. Which is not great. But I guess like my way of coping with the entire situation was just like to get like deeper into this specific thing. That could have been anything, I guess, but it happened to be wrestling, and now I'm here, and it's just, it is what it is. I think I'm gonna get better about it, for sure. In the nearest future, I hope.
Well, I think that I forgot to mention, up front, I meant to brag a little bit about the fact that, like, I'm way less involved in it than you are, but I've done a little bit of writing, a little bit of editing for the Social Suplex newsletter. You've obviously been really central to that. And to me, that seems like a really productive use of this interest and way of connecting with people around this interest.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This is helping a lot out. The starting the podcast was another big thing. Like, I've probably should have done stuff like that way earlier to just use this passion I have for it, I guess, for productive things. But now that I've become more involved with the newsletter and started this podcast, it's definitely been, those are two great decisions, I think, for myself personally, to just be productive about it, I guess, to make this hobby into something more meaningful for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and you get to be a part of it in a way that I think is always nice. Like, anytime I get really interested in something, a part of me always wants to do it. And like, thank God I got interested in wrestling when I was too old to wrestle. Like, I'm 38. If I were a wrestler, they'd be like, okay, it's time to take him out back pretty soon. He's not long for it. And I was certainly never at a place where physically I could have done it. I'm not an athlete, but if I were, let's say 20 when I started watching it, I would have tried a match. I can tell you right now, I would have tried one just to see. It would have been really stupid.
Yeah. No, I did that too, honestly. We had like our little backyard DIY promotion, for a while. I've only had like, what did I have, like 4 matches in total in front of like a crowd of people.
Yeah.
And we just did mostly like garbage wrestling with like all kinds of silly weapons and stuff.
Like each other's cookie sheets.
Yeah, cookie sheets, light tubes, chairs, all that stuff.
Did you win?
Did I win? I don't even remember really. I don't think we won a lot. No, I think we mostly lost actually. I was like in a tag team with my buddy at the time.
Yeah.
And we weren't the most successful team, no. No, but I ended up quitting doing that pretty fast. I then was like announcer and referee for the promotion for a while, but yeah, that was like 15 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. Did you have a wrestling name?
I remember our tag team name was Los Cojones, but I think I just went by Tim Hunter too. Yeah.
I mean, Tim Hunter is like pretty close to a wrestling name to begin with.
Maybe
not Tim, but
right.
Hunter is strong.
Unfortunately, yeah. It's not my real name either, by the way. So I don't know. No, my real name is the German word for hunter. So
that
it's
makes
basically
sense.
my real name translated to English. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we got through everything, right? Do you have any more like notes on the match or anything else you wanted to talk about, specifically about like the Hokuto match?
I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, no, just a lot of exclamation points, some question marks. I was feeling expressive as I wrote this, and I really did enjoy. I enjoyed the old like 4:3 TV ratio and the all 6 pixels of resolution, the murkiness of the crowd. That is one thing we did not, I think, touch on too explicitly is the crowd went nuts for this, and rightly so. Like, there might not have been 4,000 people there, but they sure tried to make it seem like there was. They were here for it in a way that it's always so heartbreaking when you see a really great match and the audience is like not there to meet it, but they were there, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that's actually something that I wanted to bring up. I just remembered that as well. Yeah, the audience was crazy. This was like a callback audience, I think, to like the 80s and 90s Joshi days, where like it was just a ton of young women screaming their heads off for what's going on in the ring.
It was more like my experience watching wrestling from Japan has been that the audiences for male Japanese wrestling, like New Japan, it's a lot of women. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a majority, but it's a lot. And then for the Joshi shows, it's tended to feel like it was mostly men. I don't know if that's accurate, but it was fun to hear the ladies at this match getting really engaged and really excited in that way that I don't know that is totally common now at Joshi shows specifically.
Right, no, this is something that like totally flipped. Like, this was the complete opposite like 40 years ago, where like the women only the women would really go to Joshi shows, and like Joshi shows weren't seen as something for men, I guess.
Yeah.
But that totally flipped around. Like, yeah, it's probably like 90% men nowadays, whereas the women go to the men's show more.
Yeah. Kind of want to give it back. I mean, isn't there a promotion that does like women only shows, or like where women are I don't remember. I shouldn't speculate. I don't remember, but I feel like there was like one promotion that was kind of trying to reverse this dynamic, and I wish that could be done more, because that seems like a nice thing to have.
No, that's true. Tokyo Joshi Pro used to try that a bunch of times, the women-only shows. I don't think they were like the successes that you'd hope they would have been for this to become like dynamic. A trend. It's a hard dynamic to turn around, and it's kind of like it's kind of a cycle as well, because like the more men there are in the audience, the less it is probably the less the younger women feel welcome there, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel more welcome. In any social situation, but for me, one of the real like things that made it possible for me to stay interested in wrestling, which I wasn't sure I would be, was when I started going to shows, and it was like actually there was pretty healthy attendance by women, like even at just American, pretty like American TV promotion shows. Like for me, that made it so much easier to go and feel comfortable than like if it had been kind of all men the way that I, working from stereotypes and ignorance sort of assumed it would be, I would not go. I wouldn't want to be there.
Nah, I get you totally. Totally agree on that front.
But yeah, I think that covers my experience of it, and thanks for having me on to talk about it and for picking out a fun one for me.
Oh, no problem. I'm really glad you liked it. I'm glad so far I didn't have like a single, what do you call it? A single flop yet. Like I didn't have anyone on yet who really didn't enjoy the matches that I gave to them. So it's always worked out great. That's I'm really happy about that. All right, everyone, please go to your bookstores or online book. I don't know, what do you call it?
Retailers?
Vendors, retailers. Yeah. Look for Drowning Practice by Mike Meginnis and give it a shot. It's on Echo. Is that the publisher?
Yeah. The press for that one is Echo. We're deep enough in the podcast now that I feel comfortable telling you that I'm waiting to hear back about what will hopefully be my next book, and I'm being totally normal and healthy about it, totally sane. I'm not climbing the walls at all while I wait to hear back. Yeah, it's a real depressing book, and if you want a depressing book, it's there. You can read that and feel sad.
That actually sounds like it's right up my alley. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah. Definitely gonna give that a shot. And that's exciting to hear. Thank you so much for doing the show with me, for doing the little homework I gave you, and spending an hour with me, an hour.
Yeah, of course.
30. It was great talking to you.
Yeah.
And right, go read the Social Suplex newsletter, everybody.
Yep.
And bye, I guess.
Yeah. Have a good day.
You too.